Hey guys, can you hear me now? Can you see me now? How's everybody doing today? Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Today's show almost didn't happen. I don't know what it is. I think YouTube is after me. I think YouTube is trying to slowly get me off YouTube because I had prepared everything for the show. Everything seemed to be good to go. And then I noticed that the live stream announcement didn't show up. I noticed that YouTube didn't actually post the normal thumbnail showing that the live show was going to be today at 10 o'clock. Today at 10 o'clock came, started the show, nothing, nada. It wasn't working. So I had to figure out quickly what the issue was. And thankfully I did. And I actually started another stream at 16 minutes past 10. That's why the show didn't start at 10 on the nose like it normally does. But I'm glad you guys stuck around and managed to find the stream. I don't know what's going on with YouTube, honestly. I think there's something up there. Every once in a while they change a few things, and it wreaks havoc on everything else. Because I also noticed earlier this week that all of the merchandise that I normally have underneath all of my videos is gone. And I don't know why, it just disappeared. So, uh, you know, I've been asking for support on the channel on a regular basis, and I've been asking for people that wish to contribute to the show to pick up some merch and stuff, but the merch is gone. You know what I mean? They don't make it easy, man. It's like they're taking everything. They're taking all of the profits, they're taking all of the content, they're taking everything away. And, here we are, a bunch of bozos trying to create some content on a regular basis to make people happy and perhaps, just get by. And, yeah, they put us, a stick in the spokes. Anyways, enough of the ranting, guys. Sorry about that. I just had to get it off my chest because it's stressful for me. I want to be on. I want to be on the show on Sunday at 10 o'clock as always, and sometimes didn't work. Doesn't work. So I'm glad you guys stuck with me. I'm glad to see that there's a bunch of guys already here. We're about 28 so far, and yeah, let's get the show started because that's why we're here, right, guys? So good morning to everybody here. Nice to see a lot of the regulars and a few new faces here. Steve Rezer, good morning. Nice to see you in the house. Gene here, Callie's here, Charlie's here, Paul, Cushman. A lot of the regulars here. Leo, don't be shy, guys. Say hello. Eddie Jr., Cool Tunes, Liptech. Uh, let's just see who else is here. Billy Bear. Presley, California Customs. Nice to see you in the house as well. Vox Guitars Rock. Gospel of Mark. A lot of familiar faces. Fat Philosopher 2. The Nye. Cool. Very cool. I'm not gonna go through every single one, but I think you guys are. Um, you know how it works. I like to say hi to everybody. Sometimes I get a little carried away with all of that, but it's all good. So guys, welcome to the show. Sunday. This is show 117, I believe, if my math is correct. And we're getting really close to Father's Day. So I hope you guys have a few ideas for some good Father's Day gifts because we're going to be talking about that a little bit later. So, welcome to the show for gear addicted musicians of all walks of life out there on YouTube. You can tune in every Sunday, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, normally. And we all basically are here for one thing, is to talk gear. So, I highly encourage all the newcomers as well as the old familiar faces to jump right in the chat, get the conversation started because we don't want to waste time. We have about an hour or so. Sometimes we go a little bit longer. Sometimes, if we get into it. but generally about an hour or so is what the time span is, depending on how good the conversation gets. And we talk about everything related to guitars, gear, amps, pedals, the whole 9 yards. Today I'm holding the Harley Benton guitar with P90s that I worked on and turned red. It was originally white. I also have a wireless system plugged in here going into my Ampero 2 Stomp just for just some additional sound effects. As you can hear, it's a nice little unit. I'm going to talk about this guitar a little bit too, because some guys had questions last week after the show, and I wanted just to clarify a couple of things on what I did on this guitar. But beyond that, I want to start off like I usually do. Want to ask you guys what you got this week, what's going on, what you're looking at. I know you guys were up to some interesting things. I was eavesdropping on some of the conversation while I was waiting, and I noticed that a lot of you, well, some of you got some new stuff. I think Mark ended up getting a 100-watt Katana 2x12, and he's running it in stereo with a Katana 50 for his new Power Trio. Hey Mark, what's the name of your Power Trio, just so I know? And that seems like a nice way to run the system in stereo like that. How do you like it so far? I'm sure it's working pretty good for you. A lot of people love those katanas, and they're quite flexible. You don't have to worry about blowing tubes and all that kind of stuff as well. So let me know. Fat Philosopher is jokingly saying that he's going to ask questions today via Instagram, because we've had a couple of incidences with him lately. I don't know why. I don't know if YouTube's trying to block him as well, but he wasn't able to ask his questions for whatever reason. It wasn't showing up. So hopefully it'll show up today. Fat Philosopher also said he was born on Father's Day, so his birthday's coming up. Nice. Fat Philosopher, how old are you going to be on Father's Day, if you don't mind sharing with everyone? Would be nice to know. What do you have lined up? If it's Father's Day, I guess it's going to be an extra nice gift for you this year. I don't know if you guys usually celebrate Father's Day big time. Usually Mother's Day gets a lot more fanfare than Father's Day for some reason. I know at least in my house it does. My wife usually likes to stretch out Mother's Day for the whole weekend if it happens to fall close to the weekend. It's not about me. It's about the mom most of the time. So I'm all good with that. But it's interesting to note if any of you have some cool Father's Day gifts lined up, or maybe you have something on the list for yourself. There's no better Father's Day gift than a gift you can get yourself. Leonard says, attention newcomers, you have not just dropped by for a visit. You inadvertently joined the club. We expect you next week. Don't be late. Thank you for that, Paul. Thank you for helping with the administrative comments on the show. I think everybody will appreciate that. Fat Philosopher says, I'll be 50 in 3 years. Well, join the 50 club, Fat Philosopher. I hit 50 a couple of years back. No big deal. 50's all right. 50's the new 40, in my opinion, right? There's a lot more things you can get away with when you're 50, I think. People cut you some slack, I think. At least in my experience. Cool Tune says, starting to get the itch for a Les Paul standard, maybe. The comment went by too quick here. Maybe may let go my CE24 to help fund it. Damn, never thought I'd say that. Wow, well, hey, Cool Tune, sleep on it, man. Because, you don't want to do anything that you're going to regret. Get seller's remorse. The CE24 is a nice guitar. You might want to, if you want to get, a Les Paul style guitar and you still like the Les Paul, the PRS guitars, check out the 245s. Maybe take a look at the CE 245s. They're great guitars. They have the single cut a lot of similar features to a Les Paul, but they're not necessarily they don't necessarily play the same way. They're, in my opinion, more comfortable than a Les Paul, but you know, it all depends what you're looking for. So yeah, Liptech wants to know how old I am. I mentioned I'm in my 50s. I think I'm 53. So I'm getting up there, guys. I need I don't know when I could retire. I probably won't be able to retire the way things are going with the economy, but getting close to retirement age is always interesting. I wonder if I'm still going to have the ability to play gear and my guitars when I'm retired. That's the dream, but who knows what's going to happen when we get up there, you know? John says he listens to Frank Zappa on Mother's Day. That's a great way to spend Mother's Day, in my opinion. D-Mac is in the house. D-Mac, nice to see you, buddy. He says, I'm looking at the UA Dream and Ruby pedals, but saw a non-sponsored video out of Europe that compared them with the Strymon Iridium, and I didn't hear much difference. Iridium was more versatile, actually. Yeah, a lot of the pedal makers today, they're kind of basing themselves on a lot of very similar circuits. So there's a lot of overlap in pedals, I think, especially, you know, certain types of pedals. So sometimes you can get away with a less expensive version from another company that gets you really close, or maybe hits the mark exactly and provides a little bit more versatility at a lower cost. So that's basically what I'm usually after when I look at pedals. I want to try and find pedals that are going to be giving me the best bang for the buck at the lowest cost. You know what I mean? If I can't find specifically what I'm looking for, I'll spend the extra dough and get, you know, that boutique pedal. But generally, I think you can get pretty close with some other pedals. So who's with me on that? Maybe I'm totally off the mark, but that's my opinion. Alan wants a new belt sander. That's a cool gift. I've always wanted an actual a belt saw, a saw, you know, like what do you call them? A band saw. Because I always work on my guitar. Sometimes I'm cutting profiles, or I'm cutting new headstocks or something like that, and it's a lot easier to do with a bandsaw. The thing is, I don't really use it all that often, so to take up real estate in my garage for equipment that I don't really need, it might be a little bit of a problem. Fat Philosopher's thinking of getting the Ibanez Jiva in a lefty, or a lefty Fender in Seafoam Green. Very cool. Both of those options would be really nice. Which one are you leaning towards more, Fat Philosopher? What is it, 50-50 split, or 50-50, you know, 45-55? What's the split so far? Leo's getting curious about 7-strings. Any 7-string players in our chat area here starting to get curious about them? I tried one. A friend had one, and I tried it. I couldn't get used to it. It's just a really weird feeling playing a 7-string. And I don't usually play too much with these crazy drop D tunings, or, you know, even some people go all the way to drop E, drop F sharp, whatever it is. F sharp is, it's a joke, guys. Anyways, there's a lot of people that are playing around with these alternate tunings. I'm not one of them. So for me, a 7-string, it's you're going into bassland for me. So in my opinion, if you want to play bass, then play bass. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm old school like that. But I figured that I like to keep my guitars with only 6 strings. It's hard enough to play 6. Never mind 7. Yeah, try the 245. I'm telling you, it's a cool guitar. Cool guitar. Randy says, "Man, I'm so old. I had a T-Rex for a pet when I was a kid." Randy wants to try out some of his stand-up material. Oh, come on. You know why T-Rexes are so vicious, eh? You know, right? You know why? Because, you know, if your arms were this short and you couldn't scratch your nuts, you'd be upset too. That's my joke, Randy. You know, I gotta please the crowd with some material on Sunday just to cheer them up. Look at this. Everybody's kind of I hope everybody's in a crazy mood today because I think the show is going to be a little bit crazy. Um, so here we go. I'm just scrolling down. Wayne says, I'm okay. I'm okay, bet none of you are as old as my new mint condition Vega lap steel from the 30s I picked up with the original tweed case for $225. Nice. I wish I could play slide guitar. That's one thing I've never actually spent time learning is how to play slide guitar, and I suck at it. And I hear lately anyways, I've been hearing such great licks on slide guitar on some of the songs that I've been listening to. And I think a lot of the new songs, the new artists that are out are also taking advantage of the beautiful sound of just slide guitar. But when I play slide guitar, it just sounds like I'm killing a cat or something. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. I know there's a little trick in it. There's a way of doing it. There's a couple of little things that you need to know. I never had anybody show me how to play slide guitar, so I just basically go at it myself, and it doesn't work. So I don't know if any of you out there play slide guitar on a regular basis. Alan wants to know, did you paint the neck, Tony? Can we the back of the Harley Benton? I guess, okay, can you see the back of the Harley Benton? Yeah, sure. There you go. There's the back. I painted everything. Neck, everything. Like it was originally. The original guitar was totally white. Everything was painted on the guitar, including the neck. So I did the same thing. Let me talk, now that you brought it up, let me talk about this a little bit here. So you guys might have seen the original review I did on this Harley Benton guitar. This guitar, I had a craving or an itch for a junior. This one came pretty close. You know, the shape of it's pretty nice. I couldn't justify spending that kind of money on a real junior from Gibson. So I ended up getting this one. But there was white at the time and sparkle silver. Both colors I didn't really like, so I went with the white, with the idea that eventually, if I got tired of the white, I would paint it. So the white basically, since it was a flat paint on this guitar originally, acted almost like a primer. So I ended up getting fed up of the white. I said, what the hell? I was meaning to change the paint on it. You can't really see it in this light, unfortunately, but it's got some sparkle flake on it. If I show you a picture of it outside in the sun, you can really see it, but there's an actual sparkle on it, and it's a car color, and I think it's, what was it called, Inferno Red or something like that. Turned out really nice, and while I was in there and I had the guitar stripped down, I figured, what the hell, I might as well do a couple of mods to the guitar. So some of you might have noticed that I don't have the junior style tuners anymore. I took them off. Honestly, those things look like toys to me. They remind me of those cheap toy guitars that you get at Toys R Us for kids, you know. So I took them off. I never liked those. And I decided to go with a set of tulip style tuning pegs. These are Wilkinson tuning pegs. They're non-locking. The holes, the original holes in the headstock were smaller. So I had to remount the holes, make them bigger, put these in. They work really, really well. One of the mods that I made originally on this guitar when it was still white was I changed the actual bridge on it right away, because the original bridge wasn't as nice. It had individual saddles that you can adjust, but they were so sharp and it was so tall. It wasn't comfortable to play. And I'm used to playing PRS guitars with these wraparound bridges. So I ended up getting a Wilkinson wraparound bridge. Looks very similar to what you would find on a PRS guitar. And it feels wonderful. It just feels so much better on the palm of my hand. I like the fact that it's a wraparound. The original Juniors didn't have a fancy bridge on them. They worked pretty good. But this one now works better in my opinion. The original pickups are still in there. I did shield the cavities. Not that it makes a huge difference, because P90s are always going to be noisy. So you know, there's that. But I kept the original pickups in there. I do have to raise the bridge pickup a little bit because I don't know if you can see it there. You might not be able to see it. It's kind of, let me just see. If I can get the right angle. Can you see how tall that is? The strings are quite a bit off of the bridge pickup there, and I usually like to be closer than that. So I'm gonna have to probably put a bit of foam underneath, because there already is some foam underneath these pickups to raise them up, but they don't go up far enough. So I'm gonna have to take it out, put a little bit more foam, give it more of a lift so it's closer to the strings, because the neck pickup is a lot louder than the bridge pickup at this point. So I need to balance it out a little bit more. Everything else is pretty much stock. I didn't change anything here except for the nut. I did go with a Graphtec nut. The original nut on this guitar wasn't fantastic. I wanted it to be black because honestly, guys, I don't know, the nut stands out, doesn't it? I don't know, my eye always just gravitates to that white nut. So I want to get a black version, put it in there. And when I cut this nut, I actually got a little bit carried away and got a little bit too close to the frets on this guitar. So I like to get really close to the frets when I cut the nut slots. But I went a little bit too much, and I think I have to actually dial it back a little bit. So switching it over to a black nut, I think is going to be really cool. The nut is actually not even glued in place. I could actually move it with my hands because I know I'm going to take it off. And I kept the headstock as is. I didn't paint over the Harley Benton or try to turn it into a Gibson or anything like that. Kept the headstock as is. Overall, it's a really fun guitar to play, and I'm really digging the P90s. Just, I don't know, it does it for me, you know? It's a fun, comfortable guitar to play. It looks cool in the red, and I think as it ages and it gets a little bit relict, I think I might even like it more as it ages naturally. And I wish Harley Benton would come out with this guitar with these features on it. So I'm probably going to make a video suggesting that, and maybe somebody from Harley Benton will notice, and who knows, maybe they'll come out with a version like this. I think it would be really, really nice. I don't think I'll need longer screws, Liptech, because the screws seem to be long enough. Like here, look, I'll show you. Like right now, I can actually lift it up further because the screws are pretty long. But yeah, maybe I'll need some longer screws. We'll see. If not, what I can also do, and I've done in the past, is just glue a little block of wood underneath the foam, lift it up, and then I can use the same existing screws and just screw them into the new block, and just, you know, it'll raise it up a little bit and it'll be fine. It will work fine. And I usually just use a drop of glue, not much, so I can actually remove it if I want to later on. Thanks, Mark. I'm glad you think it looks awesome. It turned out pretty good in my opinion. It's not perfect, but it came out pretty nice, and I'll probably post some detailed photos of it. I haven't shined it up yet, you know, with I got some what is this here? This is Music Nomad guitar polish, but I haven't spent time polishing it. There's a lot of fingerprints on it right now because I've been playing it a lot, and I could actually buff it up to shine a lot more, but it's usually temporary anyways. So I think there was, excuse me, I think there was a couple of questions. So I'm just going to go back here. Cool Tone says, Tony, does a 245 have the girth tone of a Les Paul standard? I mean, the one I have is a core model. I have the core model, and I also have the SEs. They're both great guitars. The core model has, at least mine has more of a vintagey type Les Paul sound, but mine's an earlier model. I don't know if they've changed the pickups on those guitars since then. They may have. So I can't comment regarding the new versions that are out now, but one thing I could actually recommend you try This might actually even save you money and scratch the itch. Get the SE version of the 245. Try it out, okay, in the store. See if you like the feel of it. Don't pay too much attention to the pickups because, in my opinion, those pickups in the SE are okay, but you can make that guitar really sound so much better if you upgrade the pickups. I'm trying to get my headphones on without messing up my hair. You can technically get that guitar for under $1,000, generally even less than that if you find one used. A simple pickup upgrade in that guitar will get you a great playing sounding guitar, a well-built guitar, and it might be enough for you to be happy with that before you go and spend a lot more money on the CE model. Just my opinion, because I have both. I have the core model and I have the SE, and I play the SE most of the time just because I don't want to mess up the core model that's so much more expensive. So that's my advice to you. Try that first and see if you can get by with that. Ken Hainsley of Uriah Heep was a great slide player. Yeah, there's a lot of, Mick Taylor, the Rolling Stones, played really great slide guitar. The guitarist in The Faces, actually, I don't know if it was Ron Wood at the time or if it was Ron Wood and someone else, but whoever's playing the slide guitar on all those crazy songs like "Stay with Me" and all that those kind of things, sounds great, man. Leonard, he ordered the Kalen Orange Burst in a scary accurate clone of the exotic BB preamp, $30 USD. For over 7 times more, you can get the exotic. I was always interested in trying out the Orange Burst, and that was one of the K-line pedals I never tried. I like the sound of the BB preamp, and eventually I might give it a try. Because I think, having the ability to just sculpt the sound a little bit before it gets to the amp is always a good thing. And for $30, you can't really go wrong. If anything happens to that guitar, you just take it and throw it away, to that pedal. Throw it away, get another one. Don't worry about it too much. Some of those K-line pedals will do the trick, and I've had really inexpensive 5-band EQ on my pedal board for a long time, figuring once it breaks, I'll get rid of it and replace it. Hasn't died yet. Sure, I can get a more expensive MXR version or something like that, but it does the same thing, essentially, for a lot less money, so who cares? Wrapping up another hardtail Strat, Burgundy Mist Metallic, Crazy Flame, Maple Neck with Rosewood board, Relic hardware, Mint Green Guard, still deciding on pickups, maybe Duncan Antiquities. I would really love to see photos of those guitars, man. Send me some new photos, Presley, because I know you sent some in the past, which were really fun to look at. Send some updated photos if you have. I love looking at guitar builds as they're underway. It's so inspiring and gives me ideas. The last thing I need is more ideas. Eddie was working on slide guitar for Smuggler's Blues, sounded like crap. I hear you, Eddie, man. I hear you. I can't play slide. I just can't. Tony, do your paint jobs look like stock when finished? Seems like you're doing an awesome job. Cool Tunes, it all depends on how much time and effort you put into it. There's no shortcuts when it comes to painting guitars, unfortunately. And you can get them pretty close to stock. If you have the patience, you prepare the guitar properly before you start the paint job, and you have a couple of essential things that you need to actually get the paint job done. Companies use these big buffing wheels. I don't have access to one of those. Those things are expensive. So I do it by hand, and it takes a lot more time, a lot more elbow grease. If I had a buffing wheel, this thing would be like perfectly shined. But I think it's pretty darn close. Again, I have fingerprints all over it right now, but it's all prep work. If you haven't done it before, you probably won't know what I mean. But anybody here who's painted guitars, it's basically the same process that you would use to paint cars. Pretty much. So it's all in the prep work. That's the key. I don't know what the weight is on this guitar. I haven't actually weighed, but it's not really heavy. It's a lot less heavy than some of my other guitars that I have. Not like super light. I think it's probably in the 7 range. 7, I'm going to say 7.5 pounds, something like that. I think the black headstock looks pretty good too, Gene. I didn't want to change it to another color. I'm not really crazy about these Harley Benton logos. The fonts that they're using on these things remind me of the movie Flashdance. I don't know if you remember that movie. It came out a long time ago, but it's the same freaking font that they use on. I don't know where they got that font. I don't know why people have such a hard time designing a nice looking headstock logo. They all look cheap for whatever reason. Vox says his Father's Day gift is going to be hanging out with his grandkids. That's always a super gift. You know, unfortunately, I don't have any grandkids yet. I think it's going to be a while before I start seeing any grandkids. So I won't have that pleasure anytime soon, unfortunately. All right, let me scroll down here. DC Mac I ordered from the USA. I paid barely anything, if that, and quick shipping. I got the TE70 TE style. So okay, we're talking about shipping. Rossington is pretty good on slide. Paul says, what's really stupid, I think I bought one 7 years ago. Spent 4 hours a day on technique and theory. Since then, the old me didn't have the chops to like the BBs. Transparency. Yeah, you know, sometimes you mature in your taste and you realize that some of the more subtle pedals are better if you want the tone of your amp to come through. And, you know, oversaturating the sound and sort of muddying the original amp sound doesn't necessarily do you any favors, in my opinion. So sometimes subtle is better. Humans are funny. We don't want to relic our expensive non-relic guitars. I know. And then sometimes we want relic guitars. I don't, we are strange. I agree with you, Fat Philosopher. Wet sanding is super important. You will never get a super glossy finish without wet sanding. You know, if you just spray the clear coat, you're going to get like orange peel. You might get some stuff in there like dust or bugs or whatever. You have to wet sand it to get that out. There's no way you can just leave it like that. You'll never be able to spray something perfectly unless you have a really expensive spray booth, really good quality equipment, and even at that, you probably still have to wet sand. Hey Jack, nice to see you this morning. How are you doing, buddy? Tonefish wants to paint his Jackson Pro Soloist. What color do you want to paint it, Tonefish? Ed's working and lurking. Happy Sunday. Rock on, Ed. You got to put the bacon on the table. Hope you're not working too hard. Thanks for tuning in. Let me just scroll down a little more here. Wayne says it would look super cool with your black and red Addicted to Gear logo. Yeah, I would think so too. Except I don't have anything made as a decal. I would have to make a decal. But yeah, that one actually would go really well now that I think of it because it's almost the same red as in the logo. It's true. I didn't think of that. I don't think about self promotion like you guys do. I think I need some of you guys on my side. I was surprised the Harley Benton logo were in color. Usually these budget brands just have a plain black logo. Yeah, sometimes they just like stamp the logo, silk screen the logo, whatever, the cheapest way possible. Mark wants a TC Helicon vocal pedal for the trio. I thought those pedals were really nice. They're really cool. I'm not a singer, Mark, but I still would like to fool around with that pedal. It seems like it's, especially for the harmonies and stuff, pretty sweet, and it's not that expensive. Tonefish says, New Guitar Day, I got the TC Electronics Analog Chorus Flanger reissue pedal. Sorry, not New Guitar Day, New Gear Day. So TC seems to be rocking in terms of people wanting their pedals. The Analog Chorus Flanger reissue, that's cool. I haven't tried that yet. I think that would be a really cool pedal to try. I have 3 TC pedals on my board right now. Actually, I only own 3 TC pedals. The chorus, they're mostly all modulation. The chorus pedal, sadly called the Corona. I don't know if the sales went down on that pedal because of the name, unfortunately. But it's called the Corona Chorus. So I have that one. I have the Hall of Fame reverb, and I have the delay. And they're all great pedals. And I really like the tone print features and the fact that you can actually like dial in your specific sound, and you have the slots to load up sounds and stuff. And it's really amazing how they just beam the sounds to the pickups with your phone. That's mind-boggling. It reminds me of Star Trek, Star Trek technology. Beam me up, Scotty, and you have a new sound in your pedal. It's like, I don't know how it reminds me of the modem. If you guys are old computer geeks like I am, and you had a dial-up modem way back in the day, and you would hear the sound when you would lift, when you listen to the modem as it's trying to transmit the data, you hear all these weird squeaks and beeps and stuff like that. Well, it's the same sounds that you hear coming through your phone when you're loading these tone prints into your pedal when you're using these TC pedals. It's pretty cool, pretty ingenious, I gotta say. I did have a Ditto Looper too. Actually, I almost forgot. Yes, I had one, Randy, also, which I thought was really cool, the small one. The new one's even nicer because it has that screen on it. Have you ever stained a guitar? Yes, I have, for sure. Purposely and by accident. Fat philosopher. Yeah, I have. I've used leather stains on guitars. If you watch the Big D Guitar channel, he does amazing work on his guitar bodies, and he does amazing work staining the guitars. I've used that technique. I've actually done it a few times. It actually works really well. But you got to start off with a guitar body that has a really nice grain. Because if the grain's not nice, you end up with a pretty bland looking guitar. So I've done it a couple of times, and it came out pretty good. I'll probably do it again too. Gene says, my biggest hurdle now is learning to solder delicate wires. The key, Gene, is how much heat you use. If you use too much heat, you'll be in trouble. If you don't use enough heat, you'll be in trouble. So the key is to use good quality solder. Solder that has the flux in the core is actually better in my opinion. It just works better for me at least. And you want to make sure your soldering iron is not too cold or too hot. There's always going to be a sweet spot there. I tend to go with a really hot iron now, 60 watts, because it just melts the solder really quickly. I don't like to keep the soldering iron on the components too long, because then you start melting plastic. You start melting your actual components. You want to just touch it, get it at the right temperature, Make sure you don't have any cold solder joints and you're in business. It's all practice, man. If you practice, you'll get it. Any studio monitors for guitar playing you could recommend for 500? Studio monitors for guitar playing or listening to the mix? I'm not sure what you mean, because if you're talking about studio monitors to hear your mix, I would go with the Mackeys. You can usually find them anywhere. They're quite popular. You find them used. They're good quality. They last a long time. They're not going to break the bank necessarily. There's better ones, but for your budget, probably the Mackeys would be the best. But if you're talking about a monitor to to listen, and I'm not sure we're talking about the same thing as an FR speaker. But if you are looking at that, Headrush makes pretty good ones that are probably under $500. All right, a lot of questions today. Really good. I'm happy to see that. Tonefish says, not sure, was thinking of an EVH tribute, but not the same, like a striped blue and white. Yeah, or you can try what I did a stealth version, which was black stripes on a metallic, almost like a metallic gray top coat. So they kind of blend together, more subtle, but it came out really, really well. And if I ever get an opportunity to do something similar like that, I'm probably going to try it again. But I'm probably, instead of doing stripes this time, I'm probably going to do the tiger stripes. You know, like the 80s guitars had, but instead of being like a black on an orange or a fluorescent yellow or pink or something like that, which I find a little bit too much today, I'm probably just going to do like a black with a subtle gray on top or something. So you see it, but you got to pay attention to actually see it, you know. I think that's way cooler in my opinion, subdued. You know what I mean? Hey Landon, nice to see you, buddy. You just popped in for a quick hello. Have a good show. Nice. Awesome. If any of you guys want to catch another cool guitar channel, Landon has his own channel as well. I think he also has a tech channel, if I'm not mistaken. And he often talks about gear too, guitars and stuff like that. So pop over to his channel if you want to expand your subscriptions and maybe subscribe to another cool channel. All right. Quicksilver says, not hard. I saw a video of someone just printing out something on a laser printer, apply packing tape or any scotch tape, dunk it in water. Yeah, you know, Quicksilver, I've seen those videos. They work, but it's sort of like a hack. If you want a good quality decal, in my opinion, you can make them. You have to buy decal paper. You can print them out. This is how they normally work. You would print them out on an inkjet printer on decal paper, which tends to be a little bit expensive, but it's worth it. And then you take the decal, once it's printed on the paper, you have to coat the decal paper with a clear coat. You got to use something like a poly or a lacquer, whatever you're working with. You got to give it enough coats so that the decal won't like just fade away when you put it in the water, because an inkjet, the ink on an inkjet printer is not permanent, right? If you put it in water, it's just going to bleed all over the place. So you have to kind of seal it. Then you can take the decal, once it's dried, cut it out, put it in warm water, and apply it to your headstock. But then you got to also coat the headstock to basically bury the decal in the clear coat, which takes quite a bit of effort. You have to probably do at least 5 or 6 coats, nice thick coats, and then buff it out. So it's not like a quick, just take it and stick it on type of deal. It doesn't work that way if you want to have something really nice. But it's doable. But you got to do it while you're painting the guitar. So it's a little bit messy to do it afterwards. So I think I'm just going to leave this one as is. Also, if ever I want to sell this guitar, nobody knows Addicted to Gear guitars, right? They know Harley Benton, so they know that this guitar was originally a Harley Benton, and I could probably still end up selling the guitar if I wanted to, but I probably won't now. After all the work I put into it, I'm probably just gonna keep it. Presley says Rotho and Frost in the UK is where I get my headstock decals. So it's good to know. I've tried other decal suppliers. They're not all the same. Sometimes you get a good one. Sometimes you don't. I think I may have purchased from them before too, Presley. I can't remember because I did buy a few different ones. But the ones I got from the UK were the best, actually. Randy says, you deserve a logo axe, Tony. All right, maybe I'll think about that for my next build. I have another guitar kit that's waiting for me. It's a Les Paul style guitar body, but with one pickup route instead of two. So I was interested in making sort of a stealth kind of Les Paul style guitar with one bridge pickup. Maybe I'll put my headstock logo on that one. We'll see. That's another build that I'm kind of working on. Well, not working on yet, but intending to work on when I get some time. Quicksilver says, use the same font, but just write Tony as your guitar shop logo. I could do it. Would definitely be better to just use my first name as opposed to my last name. My last name probably wouldn't fit anyways. Mark says, I also wanted to find a carbon copy-esque delay, one that sounds like it, but that's stereo. I always come back to the carbon copy. Love the sound. My one drawback is no stereo. Well, the inexpensive version of the carbon copy was the Joyo model, the analog delay that they have. Came very close, in my opinion. I used that Joyo pedal for a long time. For the life of me, I couldn't tell you if, I don't believe it was stereo. I think it was one output, Mark, so it wouldn't work if you want a stereo out. But if you want a cheap pedal that sounds very close to the MXR, that's the one to get. And it lasted a long time. It didn't die on me or anything. As a matter of fact, I still might have it somewhere here. Tonefish says, I have a best bang for the buck board. Mosky Silver Horse, which is the Noble's. No, Mosky Silver Horse, Noble's ODR1 Mini, TC Electronics, Analog Chorus Flanger, Nux, Atlantic Delay, and Reverb. That's a pretty nice little board you have there. That's another project I'm probably going to have to work on eventually, is to build a mini board. I have my full board. It gets heavy. So I would probably have to I would like to get a mini board together, but then I would have to probably buy another power supply, and I don't like to skimp on power supplies. I know you can get the Chinese ones out there for not too much money, like some of the brands we talked about, Joyo, Kalen, these things. But in my opinion, they do introduce a lot of noise and just not as reliable, in my opinion. But maybe I'll find something else. All right. I'll scroll down a little bit here. Fat Philosopher says, I would be honored to receive a guitar with an ATG logo on it. I would have to start my own guitar company. like Chapman or something. I don't know. I don't know if I want the hassles of doing that, man. Presley says MWB, messy workbench guitars. Yeah, that's a good. I like that. And Vox says a fun trivia fact: Captain Kirk never said "Beam me up, Scotty" on the original series. Are you sure? Are you sure about that? I gotta check that out. I'm not a real like 100% techie, Trekkie. Some people will get very upset around here if that's not accurate, Vox. But I find that to be odd. Maybe someone could look that up. Liptech wants to know what I'm playing through today. So I'm not playing through an amp because when I do these live streams, it's easier to go through the mixer if I'm using a multi-effect. So what I'm using today is my Ampero 2 Stomp unit, which is just here. This patch is called Hot Rod 800, so I'm assuming it's a JCM 800 simulation. Kind of a nice sound. Yeah, I don't know what else is in the signal chain for this one. If I take a look, basically what the signal chain seems to be a noise gate, a micro boost, then the Marshall 800 amp. The cabinet is a what they call a Fryman 4x12, which is kind of like a Friedman cabinet. Then there's a Liquid C modulator, and that's it. There's a volume pedal patch there if I use it with my volume pedal, but I'm not doing that today. And then there's a club reverb. Just like you could hardly hear the reverb. It's just like almost like a room. If I go down to the neck, I like it. You can still get some kind of squawk out of it. I don't know if you can hear that. The tuning sucks now because the nut is not glued down, as I mentioned, so don't give me any comments about tuning. It sounds pretty nice, pretty full. Gene says today's espresso has me bouncing off the walls. I think you got to take it easy with the espresso. I usually have one in the morning, maybe one in the afternoon. That's about it. Gospel of Mark says, I think I also want to get a compressor pedal to leave on all the time that's quiet. A compressor pedal, I recommend a compressor pedal if you have an available slot. I'm evaluating these two right now, Mark, the SP and there's the Keeley compressor here, these two. Haven't decided which ones I like best. I like this one because it's small, indestructible. This one's pretty nice. It also has the blend knob on it. They're both great. The only thing with compressors, you got to make sure you use the right power supply because they can get really noisy if you're not using the right voltage. So far, they're both quiet. I don't have any excessive noise with these units. But if you want to kill the noise, you can get one of these Flamma pedals that are like I talked about last week. They're really inexpensive. I've tried the noise gate, which I probably showed last week or a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if I still have it here. Yeah, this one here. The Flamma gate, it's called. And very small. It's the FC10. Very small, discreet pedal. Works really nice. You don't have to spend a fortune on really expensive noise gates. Slap that one in your pedal board. It's small, does the job. You don't have to worry about it. Randy says take the SP. He likes the SP. Don't forget also, guys, the SP, if you end up getting one of these things, so you have the two knobs, right? You have the high, mid, and low switch here, but there's also switches inside. You know, so you can actually play around with some of the variations of the tones with the switches inside. So don't forget, they're there. All right, cool. One of the things that I noticed this week is that being Father's Day and everything, there's always the same link that pops up almost every year, and it's a Guitar World's featured gifts of the year for Father's Day. Basically, they promote a bunch of products that they think are cool, would make cool Father's Day gifts, and it's the same list pretty much that goes around every year, and they obviously link to an affiliate link for Amazon. So basically, they get some money out of it. Why not? There's probably a heck of a lot of people clicking on these things, right? The thing is, a lot of the gifts that they list on these things are things that we've seen so many times. There's always going to be a tuner, a guitar strap, maybe a slide for a slide guitar, a capo, things like that. I rarely see anything like really exciting. They always have that go-to sort of guitar maintenance kit, that you can buy that has like a screwdriver and some stuff in there to if you're working on your own guitars and stuff. And they always have that little punch thing where you can actually punch picks out of different things like credit cards or old vinyl records or some type of plastic. Pretty uninspiring. So that's why I wanted to ask you guys, if you had anything you would want to check out for Father's Day, or perhaps put on your Father's Day list, what would it be? Because there's not that many things that I feel like I could put on my Father's Day list. Often I don't even want to put any kind of guitar stuff on my list, because my wife will ask me and stuff, and she'll end up getting me something that I might already have or something that I don't necessarily want. So it's better for me just to go out and get my own stuff. But for me, one of the things that I could definitely maybe suggest for you guys, if you're looking for something cool, a little bit maybe more pricey than you'd want to pay on your own, and you can put it on the list. So you can get one of those Hercules, grip guitar stands. Those are always really cool. Like I have one there that holds two guitars. They also have the individual one, holds just one guitar. I like the grip thing. I always feel that more secure when the headstock is actually being held onto. So I always felt that's a good option to put in there if you're looking at a guitar stand or something like that. Beyond that, there's always the Mogami cables. I'm a big fan of those cables. They're a little bit more expensive, but I do feel like they work really, really well. They're, I don't think, there's other and less expensive cables out there, but I think those ones are really cool. You can always get one of those nice, cool stools, those practice stools. Some of them have Fender written on them or Gibson written on them or something like that. They have the place to put your footrest, so when you play your guitar, it's comfortable. Those are pretty cool. Not that expensive. I like those. Beyond that, it's always the same stuff. The little micro amps, some pedals that you might suggest. You can always get a nice subscription to a guitar magazine or something like that online, of course. It's always fun. I don't have any other suggestions beyond that, guys. So I don't know. What would you guys put on your list? I'm asking you. William says, I already got a LAN device. HP2 for Father's Day. Early killer pedal. So you like that pedal, William? Awesome. I haven't checked it out yet. What's your feedback on it for us? Just curious. Presley California Custom says Keeley Java simple boost does nothing and everything at the same time, doesn't really act like a drive. It just makes the amp sound so much sweeter, rich, blooming clarity. Inherited from dad. Some of those pedals are like a must-have. You know, like I've had the EP booster on my board forever, and it just makes everything sound better. It's a always on pedal, and I would highly recommend you guys check out that pedal, because you think like your guitar and amp are sounding good till you engage that pedal, and it just sounds so much bigger, fatter. It just makes it sound so much better. So I don't necessarily use it for a boost, like for a solo boost, but I will use it as an always on pedal, especially when you're playing at low volumes. It just makes everything sound so much fuller. All right, I'm just scrolling a little bit here. One of the other cool things that I saw this week was also Jeff Beck popped onto my radar again because of the Johnny Depp thing. Johnny Depp was playing with Jeff Beck. I don't really know why, but I don't know if it was a publicity stunt designed to, you know, make Johnny Depp more likable, or if he had it already sort of in the plans or in the works. But apparently he's coming out with, he's doing an album with Jeff Beck. I mean, I like Johnny Depp. I think he's an okay player. Would he be able to, you know, to make it if he wasn't already famous? Probably not. But, you know, hey, I like the guy. So there was some pictures that popped up recently that I posted on Instagram showing Jeff Beck's current pedal board. And I thought it was cool because, you know, Jeff Beck has amazing tone, right? And obviously the tone's mostly in his hands. There's not gonna, I mean, I don't think there's too many people that are gonna deny the fact that he can make the guitar do wonderful things. And the thing that I found really cool was that his board didn't have a tuner on it. The actual photo. It had a whole bunch of pedals on it, but no tuner. And then I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, well, why would Jeff Beck need a tuner? Because he basically bends everything in tune, right? He's doing so much bending with his tremolo and his hands and everything that he doesn't necessarily need to be in tune, because, you know, he just bends the note where he wants it to be. But it was really cool that I saw, like, he had this pretty, wasn't a huge board, but it was an interesting board. I love to look at the boards that guys are using because I like to figure out how they're using their tone. Obviously, he's using a Marshall JCM 45 as his main head. I don't think that's changed in the last little while. And as far as his pedals go, he's got a whole bunch of pedals on there. And I think he has, if I could tell from the picture that I'm looking at right now, I think he has an MXR. There's an MXR pedal on there, an Echoplex. He has a Variac fuzz. J-Rocket Archers on that I can see. There's also, there's a flanger on there as well. Looks pretty cool. There, and I think I could make out something that looks like a rotosphere on there as well for like Leslie type sounds. It's interesting that the MXR pedal he's using is the MXR Super Badass. And I think he's replacing the Rat pedal that he used for a long time with the Super Badass. And he's using the Dunlop Echoplex Delay. Now I have the Echoplex, but it's not the Echoplex Delay. So it's kind of a variation on this pedal with the delay functions built into it. Pretty cool. I mean, I like looking at that stuff. And then there's something else that looks like, I can't really make it out in the photo, but it looks like a Maestro ring modulator. I don't know what he's using that for. Marky FX says Depp is turning into Keith Richards. Yeah, I think he's getting his midlife crisis now, and he wants to. Look, he said it himself. He never intended to be a movie star. He always wanted to be a musician. There's a lot of people that are actors now that love playing guitar. Quite a few, actually. And I guess he's getting, he made his fame, he's made his fortune, and I guess he's figuring, you know what? I got some friends now that are rock stars that I can hang out with. Why not live the life and do that for a while? I mean, it's not like he needs money, right? So why not? I probably would do the same thing. I don't blame the guy. Good point. Presley says he's the only dude you're going to see playing a Corina Explorer through a Dumble live. I know. I know. But yeah, he is definitely turning a little bit like into Keith Richards, I feel. Good point there. Depp just got 8 million. He can definitely afford a Presley custom. You never know. You might get an order there. You never know who might come by. But anyways, I thought it was interesting. I just, because I don't really think about Jeff Beck all that much. I mean, I like him as a guitarist. I respect him, obviously, as a guitarist for what he does. But, I've never tried to learn any of his songs because I can't play like that. And so he's not always on my radar for that. But I always like looking at the gear and seeing what he's using to get the cool sounds. The JCM 45 for me is like the amp. I'd love to have an original JCM 45, but I'm pretty happy with my Studio Plexi that's behind me there. Gets really close to that sound without having to blow my eardrums out. And I gotta say, it does the clean thing really, really well. Takes pedals extremely well. I was playing through it yesterday, and it just reminds me how much of a great amplifier that is. If you guys are looking for that sort of vintage Marshall tone, go for the Studio Vintage. It's a great amp. I can vouch for it. And Paul says the MXR Echoplex is bulletproof and gets a great sound that doesn't compete with the guitar. Yeah, and that's why I got one too. I thought the Echoplex was cool, but it's kind of like redundant for me to use the Echoplex and the EP booster because they're kind of both doing the same thing. I kind of like the EP booster sound more than the Echoplex, but I wanted to try both of them. Eventually I'll do a shootout between both to see which one actually sounds better. And I didn't go with the Echoplex Delay because I already have a delay so that I'm happy with. So it would be redundant to have another one. All right. Jakal, good morning. So Jakal received his mini Soldano yesterday, and he'll try it tomorrow. What? Hold on a second. You got the mini Soldano. You're gonna wait till tomorrow to try it? Bust open that bad boy. Let's, we gotta hear that thing. I gotta hear what you feel it can do. From my initial impressions of the videos that I've seen, because I didn't have a chance to use one here, is that it's a great sounding amp if you want drive. It really does the drive thing extremely well, in my opinion. But it doesn't clean up. There's no clean on there, right? So if you want to try and use that for a clean amp or, a one amp setup, it's not necessarily going to work for you. But if you're looking at, for that great sound, it gets into that Van Halen territory too. And it seems like it's a really cool sounding amp, and it's not that expensive. So I really would love to try one out eventually in a store somewhere. Yeah, Keith, now that the trial's over, I was definitely binge watching the trials, Mark. Keith, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I was hooked because I was always so intrigued in terms of listening to all this dirty laundry, man. It's like you never realize what goes on in Hollywood till you start hearing these things and realize like these people are living in a whole different world, whole different reality. Stuff that would fly in their world would definitely not fly in ours. In ours, I feel. So yeah, I'm a little bit I'm getting withdrawal symptoms now that the trial's over. But good news is that Amber might appeal. So who knows? Maybe it's not the end of the story. We'll see. If they would put a clean channel on the Soldano, they would sell like hotcakes, especially at that price point. So maybe that's something that Mike Soldano's waiting for version 2. I mean, he's got to keep something up his sleeve, right? So he probably figures release the first one, one basic channel. If that one's successful, we'll release the second one with both, you know. I hope they do because I would definitely want to snag one up if they do that. Mark says, I'll tell you what amp in a pedal sounds great. It's the Friedman small box. That thing is so sweet. I haven't tried the Friedman small box, but I do have the Friedman the brown eye version. And to be honest, I don't like the brown eye version. I think it's just oversaturated. I'm just trying to see where I put it. I have it here somewhere. And I was disappointed with that one. But then again, I do have the Dirty Shirley here, and I get some amazing tones out of the amp. So, it might be redundant for me, but if I probably tried playing it through another amp, I probably would appreciate it more. But once you have a real, a real Friedman amp, the pedals won't necessarily do it for you. You know what I mean? I agree. Yeah, too much high gain. There's also a switch in that, eh, Mark? I know you probably know it. There's a switch in that pedal as well to bring it down a little bit. Not a switch, but a pot. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with Mark. The small box probably would be better than the brown eye. But yeah, it depends what you're playing it through, man. There was one thing I wanted to talk about today, guys, just because we brought it up last week a little bit. I think we had this discussion where people were talking about noise and hum and sort of EMG type pickups, active pickups to get rid of the noise and the hum and all that kind of stuff. And I brought up the fact that for me, the noise doesn't really bother me all that much. I'm okay with it as long as it's not extreme. And, people were saying, well, shielding, you can do that. You can get noiseless pickups, but they're expensive. I always felt that the noiseless pickups kind of eliminate some of the nice sounds that I'm looking for in a pickup. So I mentioned, you can just put a noise gate in front of your board and be done with the noise pretty much. But there's actually a cool product that popped up on my radar that I wanted to share with you guys. And it's kind of like ingenious and really simple at the same time. Because you know how when you're playing your guitar, if you play guitar, you won't really notice the noise till your hand is no longer on the strings, right? Or touching any piece of metal on your guitar. So that's when the noise becomes the loudest, is when your guitar is no longer grounded. You're not actually grounding the guitar with your body. Well, there's a company out there called Aero Instrument D-Buzz cable. They came out with it's basically a cable that they came up with, like a jack, something pretty simple. But the thing is, this jack is kind of ingenious because you plug it into your guitar, you plug it into your amplifier, and there's a secondary wire that comes off the cable with a little disc that looks like it's made of copper or something like that, something conducive probably. And you're supposed to take this and put it like basically in your shorts. Like they want you to put this little disc and have it touching your skin at all times. So basically, what it does is it mimics you touching your guitar and gets rid of a boatload of hum, which I thought was cool, but at the same time a little odd that I have to shove something in my pants, to get rid of the hum. I'd be curious to like try this just to see, if it's something that I would be willing to use. But I'm wondering if it's safe. Like if anything should go wrong, and you're playing in a live situation and you have some grounding issues, are you going to get zapped because this thing now is basically like touching your skin directly? It's odd. I'm just throwing it out there because it's something that I saw, something new, something different. I don't know how much they're actually trying to sell this thing for. But if you're interested, check it out. It's called the Aero, like the Aero bar, chocolate bar, AERO instrument debuzz cable. Look it up. I'm curious. It's interesting to me, like what kind of stuff people are coming up with, like just to get rid of the noise. But like I said, a noise gate will do the trick. Yeah, I agree with Paul too. I think the Friedman stuff is pretty cool. A little overpriced, but that's Friedman. But I would say that the small box would probably be the sweet pick out of the bunch. And yeah, the classic rock is the classic rock tone that Mark is talking about is basically why I went with the Dirty Shirley and not like something more gainy. The Dirty Shirley for me is beautiful. It has so much. There's a plenty of gain on tap if you play it full tilt, but you can still get it to clean up and be on the edge of breakup, which I find is so nice. So I don't really like amps that are just overly saturated where you can't, everything kind of sounds the same no matter what pedals you're playing through it, what kind of guitars you're playing through it. It's kind of going to limit your tone. I like guitars that you can still, amps that you can still clean up a little bit. And that's why I go with sort of the Marshall style amps. That's why I highly recommend the Studio Plexi, because it has a really awesome clean on it and you can definitely get it to dirty up with pedals. Takes pedals extremely well. And the Friedman Dirty Shirley is kind of already like into the gain a little bit, but you can still dial it back. It's for me, it's, I would say, the sweetest amp that they offer so far. I'm really happy with it. And they came out with the Dirty Shirley twin sister. I think that was overkill. I'm happy with the simple version. Yeah, the ground loops on the amps are the culprits when it comes to the noise, right? And also having like a bad circuitry in the house. So many times people will have like circuitry in the house that's not properly grounded. Sometimes you'll even you'll see people using amps that are missing the little ground pin. That's dangerous. But as soon as you have that, it definitely gets rid of a lot more hum. So if you're playing with an amp that doesn't have a ground pin, maybe an older amp, you definitely want to have that taken care of because that's dangerous. You can kill yourself if you in a live situation if your amp is not properly grounded. I've tried the 5150 Mark. It was a sweet sounding amp. The lunchbox version of the amp is what I tried. I liked it a lot, but again, I liked it, but I felt it was somewhat of a one-trick pony because it didn't necessarily clean up all that much. You definitely want that amp for gain. All right, guys. So I don't know if you guys are still into talking a little bit more. I've been talking for about over an hour now. I think we're good for today. What do you guys think? Do you think you have any other questions before we go? I'm willing to stick around for a few more questions. If I happen to miss your questions and you asked them at the beginning and I scrolled by, I apologize. Now's the chance to actually put it back at the bottom of the chat, and we can answer some of the questions as well. Kevin says the JJ Junior Rock still have a 69 Fender Deluxe reverb. The Fender Deluxe reverbs are great too. Pretty flexible amps. The JJ seems pretty cool though. Mark's at track practice. Cool. I'm going to be doing the Uber thing too, Mark. I'm going to be, driving kids around and all that kind of stuff this afternoon. So I could, I understand what you're living there. I'm pretty sure the track practice is for your kids and not necessarily for you, right? Yes, Gene, I will have more interviews. Absolutely. I'll actually also be on other channels as part of the interview process as well coming up. And I'll definitely let you know when we'll be doing that. Mark wants to know if I've heard much about the 5150 Iconic amps. Not really. It's popped up on my radar. I'm curious, but I haven't heard much yet. But I'm keeping my ears and eyes open for that. William wants to know what's the overall thoughts on the Flamma pedals. I have the delay and the reverb pedals seem pretty good to me, especially for the price. Everybody adds the especially for the price at the end of the Flamma or Joyo or other pedals that are, more competitively priced, if I can put it that way. My opinion is if a pedal's good regardless of the cost. If the cost is cheap, even better. I like the Flamma stuff. I'm actually recording stuff now, and I'm going to be putting out a bunch of videos for the Flamma stuff specifically coming up. One of the pedals that I like the most is the actual modulation pedal that I have from them. It's really cool because it's a mini pedal. It's got a bunch of modulation sounds built into it. Doesn't take a lot of real estate on your board. Sounds great. So I'm pretty happy with the Flamma stuff. The one thing, and it's not just the Flamma stuff, any pedal, you have to use the right power. Because if you go above the rating that they recommend with these pedals, or any of the pedals for that matter, you're going to get noise. So I know a lot of people have complained sometimes that they seem to be noisy. Check the power rating that you're using on your pedals. Make sure that if it's 9 volt, stay at 9 volt. Don't pump it more than that because it's going to get noisy. It's going to get noisy. I would recommend trying the modulation pedal. It's sweet. It's really cool. I have it here. I can show it. This guy. Modulation pedal. If you guys are interested in trying it out, it's called the FC05. I don't know why they call it FC. Flamma, maybe, but what's the C? I don't know what the C stands for. Let me just show you the little pedal quickly here. So you have this little pedal. Look how tiny it is. It uses 9 volt, 150 milliamps is what they recommend for this. It's got a little light on the side, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 switches. A main switch and the smaller switches. I know it's hard for you guys to see that, but basically what it has on here, you have chorus, you have flange, you have tremolo, you have phase, vibrato, rotary, you have something that they call liquid, Ottawa, stut, which is basically stutter, like stutter effect, ring, which is like a ring modulation, and low bit, which is like a lo-fi. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 modulation effects in this little guy. Plus you have the control knob, you have the speed knob, and you have the depth knob. And you can get by with this little pedal and get rid of a bunch of pedals on your board very easily. Now the ones that I would normally use, like I already have the chorus pedal on my board from TC Electronics, but I don't have a flange pedal on my board. The flange on this is pretty good. I like it. Tremolo, I don't have a, there's no real reason for me to have a tremolo pedal on my board. I don't use it all that much, but it's built into this guy. So why not have it there? If ever you want to use it for one specific song, you don't have to have a whole pedal on your board. Just use this guy. Obviously the phase, always nice to use that if you're playing, Van Halen songs, stuff like that. The rotary effect is super nice. If you're playing maybe Little Wing or something like that, it comes in nice, comes in handy. So you can get a lot of sounds out of a very inexpensive pedal. And I'm gonna be excited to do the video on this one because this is my favorite of the bunch. Fat Philosopher says pedal companies need to make pedals with the fact that we're going to plug into a power strip in mind. Yeah, I mean, you have to make it flexible and you have to make it easy to use, and you have to make pedals that are smaller because we want to put more pedals, not less pedals, into the board, right? Let's see here. I think I skipped a question earlier on. Tonefish says favorite DiMarzio set for a Les Paul. Now, I gotta say that I kind of lean more towards the Duncan pickups than the DiMarzio pickups. So I didn't really play around with too many DiMarzio pickups for a Les Paul, but I know that there's tons of people that have. If any of you here have, a suggestion for Tonefish, maybe you would be in a better place to answer that question than I would be, because otherwise I'm just going to suggest stuff that other people have suggested, that I've heard, and I don't like to do that unless I actually played the pedals first, the pickups firsthand. For me, I tend to lean more towards the Duncan stuff, and there's plenty more pickups that I like, that I think are great, that are not necessarily made by Seymour Duncan or DiMarzio, and I can definitely give you suggestions for those. All right, guys, if there's no other questions, I think we're gonna wrap it up. I think we're gonna call it a day. Super distortions. I'm not a huge fan of pickups that offer too much output, because I find that sometimes they're less dynamic. I've noticed that with my pickups, if you go with pickups that are a little bit less, have a little bit less output, they kind of have a bit more dynamics to them. So I rarely put pickups in my guitars that are extremely hot. I tend to go with pickups that are a little bit less, have a little bit less output if I can. I've just noticed that they just sound better. Yeah, a lot of people have tried the Super Distortions, the PAF Pros. Everybody likes the pickups that have the PAF in front of the name, But try a lot of different stuff, because don't just buy a pickup because it says PAF on it. Try a bunch of stuff. And don't forget, guys, you can also check out the pickups from Porter Pickups. We had a Brian on our show not long ago, and he answered a bunch of questions. He makes great sounding pickups, very affordable. Peg City Pickups is a good option if you're in Canada. If you're in the UK, there's Monty's Guitars. He makes some really, really nice sounding pickups as well. High order pickups is another one. There's so many. There's so many. Yeah, sometimes I can't even remember all the ones that I've tried. There's sigil pickups as well. Um, the list goes on and on. Pariah makes some really nice pickups as well. Although somebody mentioned earlier in the chat that they've ordered a set and they're still waiting for them to arrive. So I don't know if there's a back order thing happening there, but they have some nice pickups as well. Mark says the Mojo Tone 59s, awesome. For less expensive pickups, there's a few options for those as well. I put a set of Tesla Shark pickups in one of my guitars, and those pickups are kind of budget. I mean, they're not that expensive. They sounded great. They have other ones as well. I'm actually also evaluating a set of pickups now that I just put into one of my guitars. I think I might still have the box here. Do I have the box? Yeah, here we go. You could check out some of these pickups also. BYO Guitars offers some pickups that are pretty inexpensive. These are a set of pickups for Telecaster, but they have pickups for all kinds of guitars. And this specific line are not that expensive. And Brian Porter also offers a set of pickups called the Gatekeeper set, which sound great. I have a set in one of my guitars. These pickups are like $100 a pair, or around that. And it's basically Brian's formula, but he gets another company to wind it for him to his specs. So the cost is down. And you can get these pickups very cheap. So you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money on pickups. Of course, there's also the no wax pickups, which I actually bought. There's another set that I have now that I want to potentially put into my core PRS 245. So I'm going to be probably talking about that. But the no wax stuff is really good too. A lot of great pickups out there, guys. Paul says the Duncan Pearly Gates, according to Gibson Custom Shop Guys, is the closest to a PAF than any that they've compared. That could be, but you got to take that with a grain of salt, right, guys? Because if you talk to the pickup winders, they're going to tell you that most of the early PAF stuff was all over the place because it wasn't as consistently wound. So what is the real closest PAF sound, Kevin wants to know if I ever looked into Jam Pedal Company. No, I haven't had the opportunity to do that, Kevin. I would like to. I haven't done it yet, though, but it's still on my list. William says I got an Elzian pickup. It's $29K. Wow. Still haven't decided if I'm going to even put it in anything. I'd put it in just out of curiosity to see what it sounds like. I'm curious. $29K, I wonder if your lights are going to dim when you actually turn on your guitar. All right. Yes, the no wax pickups are unpotted. They're unpotted, but apparently they use some kind of technique to actually make sure that although they're potted, they sound more open. They sound more, I guess, lively because they're not potted. But apparently they use no wax technology to reduce any kind of microphonics or feedback. Paul says Gibson has Gibbons has his Pearlie's hand wound. Long story, but he got Duncan to sell me one meant for him. Interesting. So how does it sound? Is it everything you imagined? Sounds like an interesting story. I'd love to hear that sometime, Paul. How you managed to fandangle that. All right, guys. It's an hour and a half we've been talking. Oh, well, I got to hear this one. Hold on. Paul just came up and said, Tony, the custom shop did a blindfold with the Duncans and the one in Billy's 59 Les Paul, and not one guy could pick out which was which. Yeah, but a lot of those guys, Paul, have tinnitus because they've been listening to loud amps all their life. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding, Paul. I'm sure they're great. I'm sure they're great. I'm sure they sound fantastic. Everybody that has a set of the Pearly Gates seems to love them. They're definitely not cheap either. So eventually, maybe I'll have an opportunity to try them. But hand winding the pickups apparently is where the trick is. From what I heard from Brian Porter, it's definitely the tension on the actual bobbin that is the key to getting great sounding pickups. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in today for another great Sunday show. Hopefully, I'll be back next Sunday and we'll have another update on a whole bunch of stuff and hear more comments and questions from all you guys. If you want to support the channel, you know how to do it. Just like the video, share the video. If you want to support the channel with a super chat, go right ahead. It's much appreciated. Hopefully, I'll get the issue with the swag stuff resolved this week so we can get that back online and you guys can help support the channel that way. In the meantime, guys, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you guys giving me the pleasure of talking gear with you every Sunday. There's no better way. I'd love to spend my Sunday than talking gear. And it's definitely great fun when I can talk gear with a whole bunch of people that are just as gear addicted as I am. So I thank you for that. Have a fantastic week, you guys. Be safe. Enjoy playing your guitars and your instruments and all your gear. And we'll be back next Sunday for more. Talk to you soon, guys. Stay safe.